So much going on in the news today. I'm delighted to have with us Thomas Paine of True Pundit. How are you tonight, Thomas?
Hey, Jason. What's up, man?
Not too much. I've got my True Pundit baseball shirt on, so I'm in the spirit.
Yeah, those things turned out pretty sweet.
They really did.
Really happy with those. I was surprised.
Can people still get these if
how well they turned out.
Can people still get these if they sponsor True Pundit in some way?
Nah, it was like a limited time thing. We hope to get a store up in the next couple of weeks.
Cool.
We're doing a lot of different stuff, so I hope to get some kind of store up where people can get hats, and we want to have everything embroidered. I don't like cheap stuff, like things that look cheap. So
right, exactly.
That's where we're at with that. Yeah.
Well, you
I'm
guys
in the middle.
been...
You caught me a strange time because we got these Comey memos are breaking now as we just as you called, and it's it never ends. It's like I said, let's do it at 9 o'clock because I figure everything would be slowed down for the day, and then at 8:30 or 8:20 I get notice from Washington that these things are going to start coming out from Associated Press and from Fox.
Right.
And I'm saying it's going to run into the show, but I mean it's an FBI show, so we'll just kind of go with the flow, I guess. Breaking news while we're on air, I guess.
Absolutely. And I was talking to Robin earlier. She's not available to join us right now, but I was speaking to two other FBI sources, and one of them was telling me that nobody has spoken about this, but James Comey is actually possibly in a lot more trouble than we've been led to believe. He was on with the fake yapper on the fake news CNN talking about how, he asked a friend to leak these documents or whatever, but he did not follow appropriate procedures to declassify the documents, and he released that information after he was fired. So according to this source, who hopefully will be joining us in the future but wasn't prepared tonight, he's saying that Comey has broken the law by leaking that information. What do you make of that?
Well, there's certain things, like I saw one a little while ago that came out where he's talking about conversations he had with Trump in the Oval Office that would be protected by executive privilege, and what he told Trump about a Russia investigation and Trump's reaction. You can't say that. You can't do that. I mean, it's just, it's no different than leaking something that's classified out, whether you're still FBI director or whether you're not. I mean, when I saw that, you have to remember, none of us have really seen any of this stuff.
Right.
Saw that 10 minutes ago. As soon as I saw it, I said, now he's got a problem. I actually tweeted something out like, he's got a serious problem now, just from that one alone. That might be the one that sticks out from, they said they released 15 pages tonight. I don't know how many tweets that is. I mean, how many memos it is. I think it's maybe 7 or more memos, but I mean, he leaked 7 memos. So that one I saw with him, what he told Trump about the Russians have tapes of him with a prostitute or prostitutes, and the Russians purport to have tapes of him with prostitutes, and then he wrote Trump's reaction. I mean, what's more sacred than U.S. president meeting with the FBI director? Who in their right mind, if you were president, would ever think that would end up in the media? I mean, it's crazy. So I think he really has a problem here. He's walking around like everything's great, and he's on this book tour and everything. I don't get it. He's a lawyer. He's supposed to be the smart lawyer. Just shut the fuck up if he was smart. I mean, I'm sorry for saying that, but what is he? I mean, he was the leader of the FBI. Didn't he learn anything when he was in law school, or didn't he learn anything when he was in the FBI? There's criminal investigations underway, and he's out there talking about everything. We're sitting here saying this guy's lost it. Maybe he lost it. Maybe he thinks he's in some kind of netherworld where he's not going to be held responsible for things, but when I saw that, and they continue to roll out, we have a story on it. We keep updating it on True Pundit. You know, these things continue to leak out. So I'm kind of like talking to you and also monitoring everything here. We have somebody handling it, but I want to see, you know, what he's saying. So
yeah, TruePundit.com has got a load of great FBI stories right now. I mean, this is really unprecedented, Tom. I mean, we've never seen a situation where a former FBI director was pitted against a former deputy director. And I mean, Comey went as far as saying that he could potentially testify against McCabe. We've heard that McCabe has violated the Hatch Act. Of course, James Comey took credit for starting that Hatch Act investigation, but I think that you and I know that it was actually Robin Gritz who initiated the Hatch Act investigation against Andrew McCabe. And of course, James Comey, on this book tour that you just mentioned, last night he had the, unfortunate for him, fortunate for viewers, had the occasion to encounter Laura Loomer. I helped Laura put this video together.
Hey, Mr. Comey, hey, how is it ethical to brief the President of the United States on an unverifiable and salacious dossier?
Right now.
And how is it ethical leadership to not tell him that his political opposition, Hillary Clinton, paid for that? You didn't.
So
you didn't
Laura
disclose
asked
that
him about the dossier and why he didn't disclose to Trump that the dossier was funded by Fusion GPS and the Clinton Foundation and all this stuff. It really was a salacious, unverified dossier. They always talk about it being verified, but the verification came from Yahoo, so it's pretty ridiculous. It was great to see Laura being Laura, calling out Comey, and Comey just stood there looking like a dope, didn't say anything, wouldn't answer any difficult questions. He's obviously taking, you know, the most sanitized possible questions written on paper cards. I asked him later in the event if he was aware of Andrew McCabe's Hatch Act violations, and he gave me the same kind of deer in headlights look that he gave Laura when she asked him that question. But it's looking like the FBI is in some serious trouble. This is unprecedented, right? We've never seen this level of sort of disruption at the FBI, have we?
Well, I think there's always disruption in the law enforcement and intelligence agencies. I just don't think it's public. This one is gets bigger every week.
Yeah.
So you know, historically for the last 30 years, maybe Watergate, but you know, there was a lot of friction between everyone was running for cover from their illicit activities in Watergate and helping with the cover up. But there was no social media back then and things. You had 3 networks and 3 newspapers that were pretty good, and that was about it. And that's what you depended on. Everyone turned on the news to listen to Walter Cronkite, and that's where they got their news. So today it's a whole nother ballgame. I mean, people aren't tuning into the networks to find the truth. Well, some people are. Those people aren't really interested, I guess, or they're just not in the know. Generational thing too, you know. It goes by generation, but not to get too far off the subject. Yeah, I think this is. We feel it's historic here. We feel everything that we're working on is. There's a strange energy around a lot of the things we've done and McCabe, and you know, we have a game plan of what we would like to see done. And a lot of that is happening, and we feel that there are historic undertones of things that are going on with the FBI, and we also have questions whether the FBI is going to survive. Well, we don't know how bad it gets.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point that you bring up. The source that I was talking to earlier, who hopefully we'll have on later in the week or very soon, was saying that he anticipates many more people within the FBI that may go down as a result of this. In fact, he called out one by name, actually, and that was Candace Will. Candace Will is the assistant director in the Office of Professional Responsibility, and we've heard Robin speak quite a bit about the Office of Professional Responsibility. Candace Will, according to this source, was responsible, or, well, let me not miscategorize what he said, but he told me that during Candace Will's tenure, which continues to this day, 6 FBI agents that he's aware of committed suicide because it was his impression that this is a regular practice, ruining the lives of agents that blow the whistle on wrongdoing within the Bureau. And that's obviously very problematic. He described Candace as a drinking buddy of Mueller, and that she was basically a wrecking ball there in the Office of Professional Responsibility. That doesn't seem extremely responsible to me, but are you aware of this person, Candace Will? Have you ever heard of her?
Well, we have, I'm not going to give anything away who we're working on. Yeah, we have heard of her. We have looked into OPR, working on some things with OPR. You know, a lot of guys, they call it agents eat their guns, you know. Mm-hmm. That's what happens. Agents that get out, agents that are still in, sometimes that's how they get out. They become depressed, and they get very depressed, and then they turn to family members, and they feel like they can't get any help from them, and then they decide that they're just gonna end their lives. It's really an unfortunate thing, and it's really prevalent in the Bureau, in the FBI, and it's kind of like their dirty little secret. Not a lot of people outside of the FBI know about it, but it's far more prevalent in the FBI than, let's say, DEA. I know a lot of DEA guys. I've said it before in your show. I came up with DEA guys. I know a lot of DEA guys. Mm-hmm. And it's two different worlds between, say, DEA and FBI, and DEA and or FBI and Secret Service and things like that. It's tough. So you have to look at the culture. What the hell's going on that makes these people feel that way? To take them all the way down where you would feel that way as a person and professionally, where they just strip you down that far. It's a serious problem. I don't see anything that's being done now that's going to change it. Anything that's going to get worse with the stuff that's going on in there now. But I think one of the reasons that happens is because they only have one speed. It's like they treat workplace issues the same as they treat criminal investigations. They just don't go after you. They don't have 2 or 3 different speeds where they say, all right, let's dial it back. You know, this is over like a promotion. Right. This guy filed an OPR grievance over promotion, and, you know, most workplaces say, hey, you know, let's work this out. You know, this is kind of crazy. You've been a good employee. Right. But the FBI says, fuck you. You don't challenge us. We're going to bury you. Right. And the next thing you know, you're, you know, put out in Siberia, and then, like Robert Gritz's case and many other agents I've talked to, they leave. They quit. And it's like, why? Like, why did you have to go that speed? These are loyal people that have worked for you. Not only that, you spent millions of dollars training them. Right. Training them. Yeah. You're just throwing them out. Well, in this particular case, the FBI actually intervened in the guy's family court situation and has really devastated his life. He had a young daughter who he hasn't been able to see for 4 years as a result of information that was injected into the family court case by the FBI as a retaliatory measure. And I mean, we know from Harmon Wilfred and just from common sense, if you've got a young child and you take 4 years of contact out of the life of the parent, and there's a divorce going on, that can be toxic. That can be a relationship that will never recover. What about the life of this innocent child, the relationship with the father? It really is horrible.
back to Candace Will, there was this article in 2011 in the Daily Mail, which Craig Murray doesn't hold in very high regard, but it's talking about how the FBI agents in question here were guilty of sleeping with sources, watching porn at work, and searching for addresses of hot celebrities. I mean, this is a rogue FBI that's being described right here that is completely out of control. And this source was telling me that he felt it was broken beyond repair, that the only solution was to dismantle the entire bureau and start again from scratch, which seems radical, but it's, I mean, is it rotten to the core, or is there hope for restoring it?
I don't know. It looks pretty bad from here. Like, a lot of people say, well, it's only the top echelon that's the management. And there's a lot of good rank and file people. Okay. I mean, you have to buy that, because I know a lot of good rank and file people, right? My thing was, I say to some of these guys, when are you going to stand up? When are you going to fucking stand up? You're supposed to take an oath to protect the Constitution. That also goes against your employer, right? Mm-hmm. Like, to me, stand up means, fuck this, man. This is wrong. I have to stand up. And if I lose my job, that's the way it is. So they're not doing that, okay, right? If they did it, it would be fixed.
Right.
Because they wouldn't allow this type of behavior to be so widespread. So right. The fact that they're not doing it, they think that they're going to save their jobs. Actually, to me, from what I'm hearing from the White House and other places, they're not going to have a job.
Right. Well, to be fair, Tom,
you might not have a job because there might not be an FBI.
That's right. And to be fair to these rank and
over.
Right, it's definitely far from over. But to be fair to these rank and file agents, I spoke to FBI whistleblower Michael McMahon back in August of 2017. I actually spoke to him again today. But, these guys are sharing certain insights and complicated aspects of the FBI that are shedding some light on some of the questions that you have. These honest rank and file agents who may in fact want to come forward, they are not protected by the U.S. Merit Systems Protection Board. What I was told is that the MSPB only protects FBI agents that are military veterans. So, members of the FBI who began their careers there are basically at the mercy of the FBI, and it may answer your question of why they have only one speed. Anyone who dares to defy the all-powerful Andrew McCabe or James Comey, their life is ruined. So it obviously prevents this practice of coming forward and blowing the whistle. Michael wrote an article.
You have to understand something, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your life is not ruined. Okay? You made a choice to be an FBI agent for a reason, right? You had something in mind. It doesn't pay that great, so you could have worked somewhere else and done something better if you were about money. So it has to be something higher than money when it comes to being an agent, right? And then you put your hand on that Bible, and you swear an oath after you graduate Quantico. What happened? Why walk away from it? What do you stand for? Like, I just don't get it. Like, you're just gonna let people get away with it, and you think it's gonna ruin your life? Go get another job somewhere. Don't be so fucking dependent on your shitty pension. There's a whole world out there. It's not just about your pension, your time in and get out. You either stand for something or you don't.
Right.
If you don't, and you don't want to stand up, then you get what's coming to you. When Trump rolls this thing up like an old carpet and tosses it up or slices it up like a pizza,
yeah,
and different pieces go to different agencies, then you realize that, hey, maybe I should have done something. Maybe, you should have, because it's all about honesty, right? Is it integrity? Do you have integrity?
Fidelity, bravery, and
You're supposed to have
integrity.
integrity.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have integrity, not just because you're afraid that you won't get a paycheck. Wait, what the hell is it? I don't understand. So they get, if it goes sour, they earned it. I know it's like harsh what I'm saying, but this is a serious situation. This isn't just happening in Washington. It's happened in a lot of field offices, and it's a problem. Like you said, it's a rogue agency. I don't know if it can be saved. I don't know. It's over my pay grade. I know that we are trying to shine a light on it as best as we can, and we've caught a lot of good breaks along the way to do that. But maybe it's too big. It's too deep. There's too much,
Yeah.
And
Well,
and when you see Congress trying to hold on to these memos and things like that, and they won't release, the Department of Justice won't release documents, they understand that these things are problematic, and the picture is much worse than what we're seeing. We're only seeing the part of the iceberg that's above the water. The part of the iceberg that's below the water is 10 times the size of what you see. So I think it's going to get really bad.
Huh?
Yeah, I think it's going to get bad, and I think they know it.
Yeah. And I want to come back to that. Rod Rosenstein has been behaving kind of strangely, and True Pundit has been absolutely killing it with the reporting on the FBI stuff. But before we get off of Michael McMahon, I just want to point out this article that Michael wrote for The Hill in May of 2017 about protecting America's intelligence agency whistleblowers. And of course, Michael was the former agent who blew the whistle on the problematic vetting. And this was during the period that Imran Awan and all of his family were given clearance to, have access to the congressional IT system and all the stuff we've heard about for so long, that Imran Awan case getting kicked down the road like a can of Diet Coke by Chris Gowan, the weasel-like attorney that is representing Imran after all of his experience working with the very corrupt Clinton Foundation. I wanted to turn, Tom, to this article that you guys have in True Pundit about Rosenstein telling Trump that he's not a target in the Mueller probe. Is that weird, or is that just me?
I wouldn't believe anything that comes out of that guy's mouth.
Right.
I don't believe. I mean, here's a guy. He signed one of the FISA warrants going back to the election tampering that we've seen, and the FISA memo that was unclassified has his name on it, and has his name on a couple of the packets of paperwork that went in front of the FISA court. And the guy's been around too long. First of all, he's from Maryland, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to somebody about Maryland. Maryland has its own, Cummings and that whole crew, and they have their own way of doing business. Talk to FBI agents in Baltimore who get transferred in from other places. They're like, what is going on in this place? Like, Maryland's, for a place that seems like a northern state, it's very good old boy network, and so it has that strange dimension. And Rosenstein came up in that type of an environment, and it's very who you know, and this guy owes you favors, and you owe this person favors.
Right.
And that's just the way it is, the federal system in Maryland. And I'm talking about Baltimore and Greenbelt, the federal courthouses in different places. So the very fact that he was a survivor and that he was able to prosper in that system as U.S. attorney out of Maryland tells you that he's a political animal. And
right. Swamp.
I don't think there's anything that has been written about him that has been really inaccurate as far as him being a problem. We didn't think that he would make it past the FISA, the unveiling of the FISA memo. We thought he would be out of a job, but he's still there. I don't know why he's still there.
Didn't he appoint Mueller?
Yeah, he appointed Mueller, and we can go back and look at that as well. But it's not that sexy. I mean, this is pretty basic. They've been friends for a long time, and of all the people that got appointed, he got appointed. They're both implicated in the Uranium One.
Exactly.
As potential fact witnesses and maybe even suspects, So they're both implicated in Uranium One, and here they are running the
investigation.
Trump Russia investigation.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You can't make this stuff up. It's like out of a comic book.
Right.
It's like the comic book villains. It's like they draw these things up. It's like, oh, well, let's have this. It's the same. It's completely insane. It gets crazier every day.
Now, Thomas, I'm sure you know this, but the AP is reporting that the Comey memo has just been leaked online. 15 pages of Comey memo.
Yeah. We have all the memos on True Pundit. We have all of them up. The actual memos are up on True Pundit in a story at the top of the page, and on our Twitter, the full memos.
People should definitely be checking True Pundit for the latest FBI
They were leaked
news.
out. They were leaked out, and they're on there. They've been on there for 20, 25 minutes. Well, since we started talking, we had them up. We had bits and pieces up, and then we just got them all up while I was on the phone with you. So, right. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's I don't think that I don't know what Comey is doing, what he's drinking, what kind of elixir he's on, but I'd like to have it when I'm in a bad mood because he sure seems pretty
jovial,
happy-go-lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's cruising around. He's talking he's on talk shows,
making jokes.
Although his appearance on The View didn't go so well when they told him that 11 members of the House had sent him up for a
criminal recommendation, right?
Criminal recommendation. He was supposed to be answering softball questions, and it got kind of ugly on The View. And I said, if this guy can't handle himself on The View, what the hell would happen during a criminal trial? It'd be like a bowl of Jello up there.
Yeah.
They would never get that far. These guys would sing like a canary. They'd rat everybody out. Believe me, they're not gonna. None of these guys have the balls to go up against the FBI and the Department of Justice in a criminal trial and let it play out in front of a jury. These guys are milquetoast. They're lawyers. They'll deal everybody down the river. They'll sell everybody down the river.
Whoop! Somehow we lost Tom. We'll get him back. James Comey was definitely in a good mood last night at Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, got you back. No problem. Comey was in a great mood last night.
I was saying.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say he was in a great mood last night, but please continue with what you were saying.
Want me to go or you want to go?
You go. Tom, you there?
My point is that now that McCabe, this first round is... Are you there?
I'm here. We got a real slow connection. Yeah.
Jason?
You got me?
How about now?
Yeah, I hear you. I got you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Let me try you back. It sounds like it's not working so well.
Okay.
We'll try one more time here. Something really interesting in the James Comey book, if people have purchased it or have otherwise had a chance to read it. Have I got you back now, Tom?
Okay, I was saying now that McCabe has been referred for criminal, prosecution by the Inspector General in this first batch of the IG's report, there's another one coming out within the next month. That could be more problems for him. But now, if they go after McCabe, our guess is that he will not go down alone.
Right.
So you could see a major shakeup. You could really see a major shakeup. That's why he's such a key domino, because he's a hothead. He's not going to go down alone. It's probably not in his DNA. He's going to sell other people out. It's just the way it's very rare for these guys to be stand-up. And what I mean by stand-up is you take the heat. You have to do time, you do time, and you don't look over your shoulder and you keep your mouth shut. These guys aren't built that way. So it's going to be interesting if they get some pressure on them. They're going to want to make a deal. They're definitely going to want to make a deal. And,
Tom, there was something in the
very interesting. Yeah,
there was something in the Comey book that caused me to realize the scope of this thing, as far as how long these guys have been involved and how deep the knowledge goes. James Comey talks about how he's never met Hillary Clinton, although he tried to, and he realized that she may not have wanted to meet with him while he was a U.S. attorney in New York and she was a senator, because earlier in his career, around 1993, 1994, he had been involved in the Whitewater investigation, and he was specifically involved in investigating what he categorized as the suicide of Bill Clinton's former counsel, Vince Foster, and the investigation of Whitewater documents that were in his office. Were you aware of that?
Yeah, of course. The guy's, he's been tied to them since Whitewater, since Foster, Webb, Hubble, the whole group. I mean, he goes back. This guy goes back. I mean, first of all, I don't actually believe that he's never met Hillary Clinton. I think that's probably a reach.
I didn't believe that either.
That's probably just a cover. I mean, we did this story. We broke the story where McCabe lived a half a mile from her for 4 or 5 years when she became a U.S. senator in New York. McCabe lived, and his wife lived a half mile from her in Chappaqua.
And that they had a personal friendship, right?
Well, that's something the Inspector General is looking at. I mean, I don't know if they had a personal friendship, but of all the cities that they could have lived, they lived a half a mile. And Chappaqua, that's like 6 houses, 7 houses, not even. I mean, Chappaqua is a very, very ritzy place, very upscale place. Tony, they would call it, very Tony suburb of New York, a Westchester suburb of New York. And a half a mile, I mean, these things just aren't a coincidence.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It takes on a life of saying these guys might be, assets or something. Are they Clinton assets? I mean, why would you're running you're in the FBI New York field office and you live a half a mile from senator from New York who happens to be former first lady whose husband happens to be president of the United States at one time.
Right.
At some point, happenstance goes out the window. And you start to think, wait a minute, maybe there's something more to this.
Right.
Huh?
Yeah,
and why hasn't the mainstream media ever? Why didn't the mainstream media ever report that? Why were we the first people to come across that? I mean, this goes back to 1999 to 2003, 2004.
Right.
It's 2018. Why are we the first ones to find that? This stuff is 16, 17 years old.
And CNN and the other mainstream news outlets are still, talking about how Comey is a great guy. The overwhelming majority of people there at the book signing last night were, they liked Comey because he was coming out against Trump and saying all kinds of negative things about President Trump. But then there were also some people who didn't like Comey, not because he's an opponent to Trump, but because they felt that he somehow caused Hillary to lose the election. I mean, frankly, James Comey, for whatever he is perceived to have done that cost Hillary Clinton the election, he's just about her best friend for not investigating the email scandal and throwing her right in jail.
I think that he covered his tracks very well on a number of different occasions when it came to the email things, and a lot of that before the election shenanigans where he opened the investigation back up, he had to do that to cover his ass because he probably would have ended up indicted hadn't he done that, because it turns out that the FBI sat on credible information about classified emails that were in Weiner's laptop for 12 to 15 days and didn't file the proper paperwork to get a search warrant so that the Bureau could take a look at those emails. Nothing happened. McCabe sat on that for 12 to 15 days, and then when Comey found out about it, I think it was on October 27th, at a staff meeting, the guy went through the roof because the New York field office, and they were talking with General Counsel, FBI General Counsel James Baker, and they said, "Hey, when are you guys going to file a subpoena? We've been waiting for you guys to file a subpoena, or tell us to file a subpoena in the Southern District in New York so you can get access to these emails." And Comey was like, "What emails?" And McCabe was on a conference call. He wasn't there, but he was on the call. What they did is they said, "Yeah, well, we told McCabe about these emails in the beginning of October, or right somewhere around October 10th." And at that point, Baker said, "Yeah, we have to get this guy off the phone." They threw McCabe off the phone, off the conference call. They kicked him out. Mm-hmm. I understand he tried to dial back in, but he got kicked out. And Baker was saying to Comey, "What the fuck is going on? What emails? This election is a couple days away. It's 12 days away." So what happened then is Comey panicked, and he sent this letter to Grassley and all the chairman of all the different Senate committees and subcommittees, saying, "We need to open this back up and take a look at this. It's come to our attention that there's hundreds of thousands of emails on this Wiener laptop." That's when the shit really hit the fan. But he only did that, I think, to save his own ass, because a couple of days later they came back and said, "Yeah, there was nothing in the emails." "Oh, okay, you went through 650,000 emails in
a couple days,
4 or 5 days." Now they use software. They do use software to look for things, right?
Right.
But still, it doesn't catch everything, and
right.
There's certain, you have to put some elbow grease into this, some investigative elbow grease. So Comey, I think, covered his ass so he wouldn't end up getting, because if it came out now that they covered that stuff up and Comey didn't do anything, they'd all be in big trouble. There wouldn't be any gray area. That's black and white. And but we did a story today, Jason, where even despite the fact that McCabe's wife took money from Hillary Clinton-backed political bundlers for her Senate campaign in Virginia, $1.25 million. Even despite that stuff, and finding out that McCabe basically concealed this evidence along with Peter Strzok before the election about Hillary's email. They were trying to run out the clock, apparently, to give Hillary a boost. Even despite that, Comey still allowed him to run the point on the Clinton Foundation investigation for the FBI, which was also ongoing as a parallel investigation.
Right.
So when he's up on stage at Barnes & Noble saying this is all about leadership, and he's on the ABC saying Trump is a bad leader and stuff, this guy knew that McCabe had favoritism or some type of propensity to protect Hillary Clinton, but he still let him run point on the Clinton Foundation investigation, and apparently he slow-walked that. McCabe slow-walked that. Nobody's been indicted.
Right.
Basically shut that down between the time of the election and the time he was, asked to leave the office by the new director, Christopher Wray. So what kind of judgment is that? I know you're in the tank for her, but keep running the Clinton Foundation investigation. I mean,
right.
Somebody has to answer for this stuff. This is insanity.
It was amazing to me, Tom. Yesterday, just after the book signing, Charles Ortel was outside speaking to a guy who just came up to us who was both a lawyer and a CPA. And this guy was just flabbergasted by the notion that there was anything illegal going on with the Clinton Foundation, and he had no idea who he was speaking to. It's a hilarious encounter if people get an opportunity to watch it. Charles Ortel discussing the crimes of the Clinton Foundation with someone who was obsessed with Trump's purchase of a $25,000 portrait. It was pretty funny to see. But that's the thing. There's this massive brainwashing going on, and I think we're starting to really see the cracks emerge. You guys have got this article here about Trump mocking Comey for throwing McCabe under the bus. It really, in certain regards, seems like Trump has a good level of control over this. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the next couple of days.
It's interesting to see what happens every day.
Yeah, yeah.
We call it the greatest show on earth. You know, that's why you have people over here, like you talked about the Globe and Mail and the Guardian and these other papers are like, why are these papers writing about U.S. politics, right? Because politics in their country is boring as hell, right? Yet guys are still wearing powdered wigs in Britain and yelling at each other. So, I mean, it's like, this is the greatest show on earth. Australian media, Italian media, media in the UK, the Irish media, they all cover politics. Of course, Canadian media, too. They all cover the U.S. politics because it's the greatest show on earth. It beats anything that's coming out of Hollywood. I mean, Hollywood can't write the scripts that we're seeing, the different twists and turns. They couldn't make this stuff up if they wanted to.
Let me take you back to Rosenstein for a minute, Tom. Do you think that he is telling Trump that he's not a target in the Mueller probe because he recognizes that this whole entire probe is about to fall apart and, in fact, Rod Rosenstein is possibly facing an indictment?
There's too many moving parts in that. I mean, I wouldn't pretend to know what Rosenstein is doing or why he's doing it. You know, he has a bad track record through history of being partisan, not towards conservatives, and I think that his wife is also involved in this. She's been a lawyer for all the parties involved. She's represented Obama. She's a government lawyer. She's represented Clinton. She's represented Bill Clinton. She's represented, I think she's also represented Comey. And wow. I think, you know, so that's like whole nother story we haven't even gotten into. It's like, it's an interesting story, very interesting story. So it's like a 1-2 punch with Rosenstein and his wife. So it's not just like, oh, this guy's milling around and he's made some bad decisions. It's much deeper than that. So
right. I
think his track record is not exactly impressive. Mm-hmm. And like I said earlier, you know, if he told me that I wasn't under investigation, I would pretty much believe that I was probably under investigation because I wouldn't believe anything that comes out of his mouth.
Right.
That's just me, though. That's my personal bias and some of the things I know. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm right. Right. But I would tread very carefully with anything that guy told me.
And then just minutes before we began this broadcast, you guys put up a story.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it. Just real quick.
Yeah.
You know, he's got a tainted past, okay? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to get too much into it, but you know, he might be being looked at for something too. We've come to find out that it's been going on since 2009. He might be a target of something going on, and if that breaks, I just want to, you know, put it out here that I mentioned it. And this isn't like some kind of a crystal ball thing. I mean, we know that something has been linked to him since 2009. He's used his position in the government that he's being looked at. And if that breaks, he's got bigger problems. And one of the guys here told me that's why he hasn't been fired, because they want to keep him placated, think that is safe because he's already being looked at for something.
Well, Charles
something
is
much
talking
bigger
about
than.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Something much bigger than what?
And all this. I mean, you know, this is a guy who's plugged in. He has a lot of access to a lot of different things.
Yep.
And if he's dealing things out the back door, for instance, for different people, classified information, same kind of thing Hillary was being looked at, right? Mm-hmm. If he's being looked at and something would break along those lines, Don't be surprised.
Right, right. The other thing that this FBI source told me is that Comey did not follow appropriate procedures to declassify the documents that he released. You know, I might have already said that after he was fired. So all of these guys are facing huge problems. And then just before we began this broadcast, True Pundit had put up a story about Rudy Giuliani. It's confirmed now, has joined Trump's legal team. And, you know, most people remember Giuliani as the mayor of New York on 9/11, but of course, he was an incredibly aggressive prosecutor, went after Mark Rich, went after the mob in New York City. What do you make about this development?
Well, it's a good move for Trump. Said that when he was a prosecutor, assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, and that's where Michael Cohen is having his problems right now. And a lot of these guys in justice, you know, he knows a lot of these are career guys that he came up with. It makes a lot of sense for him to be in the mix on this. I think it's a good move by Trump. He knows a lot of the players. You know, Southern District of New York is a very unique place. A lot of things that come out of the Southern District, they have their own way of doing business, and they're not prone to dealing with outsiders. He's not an outsider, so he's in the know. He knows the players. He knows the field. I think it's real smart move for Trump. And Giuliani, if he's going to work with Mueller, he's also a seasoned investigator. He knows the ropes. I think he wants to get in and try to help him as much as he can, as quickly as he can. And I think he's probably going to do that. But it's a huge advantage that he knows the playing field, because it is a very unique place. It's not like any other. It's not like working even across the bridge in Brooklyn. In the Eastern District, I think it's different place. They have their own dynamic, and they're very territorial. You know. So I think it was only a matter of time, and it should benefit Trump.
Right. Now, if I had to guess, I would say that True Pundit is not a big fan of Michael Cohen. You've got this story asking if he is an FBI rat. And Trump insiders are worried that he might be taking the government cheese and could be ready to roll over on Donald Trump if appropriate pressure is applied. What do we think? He doesn't look happy at all in this photograph, Michael Cohen. He's been a friend of Trump's for many years, and he's been his lawyer for many years. Why do we expect that he would so easily roll over?
Well, they've turned his life upside down, and there's no expectation of loyalty in today's day and age, you know, so.
Even to the president, who could pardon him?
Well, it depends, right? It depends on what happens. But the story was about a Trump advisor telling Trump that he's got to be wary of this guy. Things have changed since he got raided.
Right.
It's not business as usual. The guy was saying the guy could be a liability, because the next 2 or 3 times, you know, in all honesty, the next 2 or 3 times you talk to the guy, he could be wired up.
Yep.
You don't know if he's already trying to cut a deal with. We're not saying he's a rat. We're saying there's a concern that he is a rat. Historically, and if you run the numbers, he may very well turn out to be a rat. So, just playing the odds, why would you want to talk to a guy like that or have any dealings with a guy? You almost have to flick a light switch.
We're losing you there, Tom.
You know, it's like, still there?
Yes.
It's almost like you have to flick a light switch and you can't talk to the guy. You know? It's over.
But it seems like this is what they're deliberately trying to do to Trump, right? To take all of his closest confidants, all his best people, apply pressure to them, discredit them, say they're under criminal investigation. We see these tactics being applied all over the place. A lot of people trying to do these same types of things to me. inserting people who are, turning against me or being revealed to be something that they're not, and trying to apply pressure to me in a similar fashion. I mean, these are deep state tricks. It seems to be just taken right out of a book, no?
Well, they're taken out of a book, they're taken out of manuals, they're taken out of the school of hard knocks. This is the game.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing happens to us, right? Not on the scale of Trump, but
right.
If you want to play the game, those are the rules. And I've told this to other people too. This is the way it is. I've told it to you. I've told it to other people. This is the game. It's not a game for everybody. And a lot of the readers who read our site and who watch your presentations and your interviews and your show don't understand the complexities of what goes on away during the other hours of the day. But there's definitely an ongoing chess match between good and bad, and white hats and black hats, and it's ongoing and it's never ending. It's equally frustrating at times as well. So it's just part of the game. Trump's got to man up and play the game, and I think he's doing that. I don't think he's not manned up. I say he's just got to stay manned up and play the game. Part of that game is you flick a light switch on a guy like Mike Cohen.
Right.
He's seen as a liability right now. Chances are he's in a position to do more damage to you than he is good. So you hope that he's a stand-up guy and he does what he needs to do. He doesn't try to cut any deals that involves stopping your legs out from under you.
Right.
He could, though, because he was a lawyer for the Trump organization. He knows a lot of stuff, so
right.
Anything's possible. That's how much they want to lean on him.
Sure.
People say, "Oh, it's just all political. He's going to be okay. They're just trying to lean on him." Well, usually when they raid your place, you're in trouble already. They already know that you. They already have what probable cause. They already have an idea of what they're looking at you for. They're just looking at. By the time they raid your place, they're just looking to get a couple extra things for icing on the cake that they can use against you during negotiations as a wedge. So I'd say Cohen's in serious trouble. And I don't think it's like some show. I think he's in serious trouble. I don't know for what. We don't know for what yet, specifically, and you won't know that until he's indicted.
This election finance stuff and paying the stripper?
You don't know. It could be a lot of things you never would have guessed. So you wouldn't know how many counts, what they're looking at until he's indicted. And I would say that absent a deal before he's indicted, I would lean toward the fact that he's going to be indicted.
Wow. So, Tom, in the last couple of minutes we have here, I want to talk about some of the amazing reporting True Pundit's been doing about the Las Vegas shooting, another FBI fiasco with the cover-ups and the changing story. What can you tell us about the series you guys did here, Fear and Lying in Las Vegas? What was the most significant piece or pieces that were uncovered in this series on TruePundit.com?
Well, we got a lot of heat on that series. It was 5 parts. We might do a 6th part. I don't know. We're kicking it around, but we pretty much said what we wanted to say in 5 parts. And the series was taking a look at the rudimentary steps that the FBI ignored during the entire investigation. It wasn't about drawing conclusions about who did what unfolded, how many shooters there were, where Paddock was, and all this stuff. It was about something that's very basic. Why didn't the FBI look at a number of blaring instances where there should have been investigative follow-up in such a high-profile case like this? So that's what the 5 parts were. The biggest takeaway I have is there was no follow-up on one individual, Brian Hodge, who very suspicious. I would classify him beyond a person of interest. Why there was no follow-up on what this guy was doing there that night, and his actions directly after the shooting started, his actions were very suspicious. Started doing a lot of interviews on foreign, he's an Australian national, lives in California. He started doing a lot of interviews on Australian TV and Australian radio. His stories changed all the time. And then the FBI has a report that we were fortunate to get our hands on. It says they traced his phones at the time. They pinged his phones, and he was, 10 miles away from Mandalay Bay at the time. He said he was hiding in the bushes and stuff, and the time he gave interviews saying he was hiding in the bushes, he was hiding in the kitchen, and he was on the phone with these really dramatic interviews, but he wasn't even there. He was 10 miles away, and at this little hotel, when they pulled the records of who was in the hotel, there was a Mexican national staying there along with two other guys from a city that was linked to terrorism and things like that. So why didn't they look at this stuff? And, we have proof that they did, and they just said, well, we're not interested in it. The assistant special agent in charge under Rouse was debriefed everything by federal agents and by investigators who had come up with this information on their own without the permission of the Bureau. And it was never followed up on. So it just makes you scratch your head to say, what are these guys doing? Why did they not look at credible leads?
Yeah.
There's plenty of personnel to handle it, so why didn't they do it?
Right, and still no resolution.
I don't know the answer to it. I don't know the answer.
Of course, no one does. Still no resolution there in Vegas. I mean, it would definitely seem like independent investigators on YouTube and Twitter and Periscope and elsewhere on the internet are really digging up more information on the Las Vegas investigation than the FBI or the mainstream media. I think that is one of the reasons why we're seeing such intense pushback on some of the real news that's being uncovered in independent media. People should definitely be following Thomas Paine on Twitter. He's there at Thomas1774 Paine, except no substitutes. There have been many people who have spoofed the account, taken the name, tried to distribute fake news and nonsense, possibly to disparage our friend Thomas Paine of True Pundit, whose true identity is known to me, but kept secret to protect the innocent. People can also follow True Pundit directly at true_pundit. And of course, you can go to truepundit.com. Thomas, how can people support the independent reporting of True Pundit?
Well, we're getting a little bit more sponsors, which is good. People don't understand, but that really is the bread and butter. $10 here, $15 there, that kind of thing. We've gotten some larger ones lately that I'm happy with. But if you go to truepundit.com/sponsor, that gives the three major options to help fund us. And so it's truepundit.com/sponsor.
And people can just hit that blue button.
You can hit the blue button, or you can go PayPal or Patreon, whatever's good for you. What we try to do is we try to every week break our ass, and then at the end of the week we put up kind of a link on Twitter and say, hey, if you want to buy the guys a couple.
Oh, lost you at a critical moment. I can only anticipate that he was about to recommend that if you want to buy the guys at True Pundit a couple of rounds of drinks, you can do that by sponsoring True Pundit. You can go to truepundit.com/sponsor, and there is a blue button there where you can sponsor True Pundit and keep independent media alive. Buy a couple beers for the guys over there at True Pundit. Is that what you're going to recommend, Thomas?
Yeah, it's like, it's good. I was saying, we put up a link at the end of the week where people can buy. You guys usually go out for a happy hour if we have a good week. We've been having good weeks, pretty good streak going. This week was really good so far. I mean, we broke a big national story on Monday or on Tuesday, and we had a couple smaller ones since then, and happy with the way things are going. We just keep plugging away, just trying to follow the trail.
Yeah, definitely. I always check True Pundit. It's got a load of great information about the FBI, and you guys have tremendous sources. It's really amazing the information that you're bringing forward. I always appreciate your input, your insights, and your support. Thanks so much for joining me tonight, Tom. I appreciate it. And I want to remind people
you got to tell your guys to get back on Crowdsource the Truth too.
Crowdsource the Truth too.
Right?
Exactly. People
gotta
who
get
are
on,
looking
get on the stick.
Gotta subscribe. We just passed 5,000 subscribers on Crowdsource the Truth 2 today. We're still growing on Crowdsource the Truth 1, despite the malicious anonymous strikes that have prevented us from live streaming there or uploading new videos there. I still get multiple emails per day from people who are worried about me, saying they haven't seen videos from me in some time. So if you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook or Periscope or VK.com, you can definitely subscribe to Crowdsource the Truth 2 on YouTube. We've also, this is great, Thomas, we've implemented Vimeo streaming now on Patreon. So people who want to avoid any of the inconveniences of possible strikes on YouTube can just log on to www.patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And if you become a monthly sponsor on there, even for as little as $1 a month, $5 a month, whatever is convenient for you, you can enjoy live streaming uninterrupted by the malicious trolls that have been manipulating the algorithms of YouTube to strike these videos. It's very interesting. I know you've had some problems with Twitter. When I alerted Twitter to the fact that a highly malicious anti-cop, pro-violence person had, just for no reason other than to be, malicious, posted my parents' phone number on the internet along with the suggestion that people call them up, people who don't know them. Now, my parents are not running a business out of their home or with that phone number, so publishing it along with the advice to call them, telling thousands of strangers on Twitter, that is pure harassment. People should not do that. And when I alerted Twitter that that had happened, they said that's no problem. But apparently, if you criticize Lady Gaga's possible plastic surgery and poor choices of political statements, you get smacked down by Twitter. So it's very interesting how the censorship on these platforms works.
Well, that's the game, man. It's like, but they don't understand. The message is bigger than the game. Not the game. The message is bigger than their platform. So you can put somebody in a vice, right, and keep squeezing it, but eventually it's going to explode and get onto other things and other formats and places you never expected. Like, if the message is good, it's going to catch on and it's going to find its own path. Even if it's not as simple, it would be simpler, more streamlined to stay on the standard mainstream social media. Yeah. But if they are going to censor you, but the message is good, it'll still get out there. It's just a little slower. So a lot of people out there don't know what to do, and my advice is buckle up and grind it out, and don't quit. Grind it out, and the most committed wins.
That's right.
When it comes to intelligence, especially intelligence gathering. It's one of the things you learn in the government. Yep. The most committed wins. That's why we have problems with people over in the Middle East, because these guys are committed.
Right.
These guys are ready to die.
They are.
So it's a challenge, but the most committed wins. The same goes for getting your message out and using your First Amendment rights.
Absolutely. I want to thank again my guest, Thomas Paine. People should be checking him out on truepundit.com. Thomas, I'll speak to you soon. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Have a good night, everybody, and thanks for watching. Yeah, take care.